So Chaz, back now, talking about you're talking about this agricultural and setting, Chaz, and I'm sort of picturing these 10 buildings, 10 side walls and so forth, and and lots of equipment around, certainly not designed for data access or data networks. So would you consider that? So how do you stress that type of network? I mean, does that put a stress on a Wi-Fi network, Chaz, when you have that kind of environment, a lot of metal, 10 walls?
For sure. So it's not like the noise floor of, say, a conference center in Vegas, as Jeff recently gave the example of being there. It's not that type of interference. However, in this particular example, a lot of trucking in and out of this facility. And so what happens is everything is very much real time. It's not maybe real high throughput type activities. Like, for example, we talked about Wi-Fi calling, but it's very time sensitive in the sense that whether they're swapping trucks, drivers, whatever the case might be. And, they used to have issues where, it's the typical go stand outside on 1 foot and try and communicate with the next driver scenario. And now they can easily and reliably communicate both from the yard and then also within the respective facilities in the area. And so that really helps support the trucking operation. And so that's kind of how it gets stressed, is that you've got these real challenging environments that typically wouldn't have coverage without a very complex setup. The reason I use the word complex is because if you think about the number of clients, kind of the opposite of what Jeff experienced, at any given time, this might only be 5, 10, maybe 20 devices. So it's not a real high number of devices, but the real-time communication is where the critical component lies, and they need that immediate feedback.
Yeah, that's what you have with these voice Wi-Fi calling applications. Wi-Fi calling is really turned out to be fantastic. It's really solved some of these problems with lack of cellular coverage. It's been a great benefit to the service providers. That's why they all support it, right? All of them do. Mm-hmm. Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile. And the interesting thing about that, people, just for clarification, we're all very familiar with the concept of using an app. I use WhatsApp, or I've used to use Skype years ago. You remember Skype? Anybody remember Skype anymore? Probably not. Before your time. but we think about FaceTime. Jeff, you're mentioning FaceTime with family. So we're kind of familiar with those concepts, right? Using an app to do a video call or a phone call. But Wi-Fi calling is a little bit different, because the sneaky thing about Wi-Fi calling is that you're using the IP protocol, but you're integrating it into the phone dialer, right? So it's not a separate app. So you're going to open up your phone. You're just going to dial a phone number just like you normally do without thinking about it, or pick a person from your contact list more appropriately, and you're going to click the call button. But you don't really know. You didn't really consciously open up an app to try to make that call work. And it works.
You don't have to think about it.
Don't have to think about it. And I think that's the key thing about Wi-Fi calling. The really advantage there is that people don't have to think about it.